Roland here, back with another video, and today I'm gonna be giving you guys a story time. So actually, the lawnmower that I just bought that I've been posting on my YouTube channel, it broke down about a week ago. I'm gonna play you guys a clip. So yes, they had to use a forklift to get the zero turn off of my truck. And unfortunately now, I have to go back to using a freaking lawnmower. But it's good. It's good. I'm straight, you know? Like, I'm gonna bounce back in the fall and just take over. But to give you guys a backstory on what happened to the lawnmower, one day I was using it. I did about 4 yards and then I went to take a break. Came back, tried to start it on this other customer's property. I think I weeded it. And once I tried to start the zero turn, it just wouldn't even make a noise, not even a sound. Usually it'll try to turn on.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
But it didn't even make no, it was just nothing. So a few days later, I took it to the shop and they told me it would take 2 weeks for it to get out. So now that's what I'm waiting for. And if you haven't already, comment, like, and subscribe. Enough of me talking. Let's get to the podcast.
I was saying that marijuana can be your friend and it can enhance your life. But if you take too much, it's such a seductive little creature. Because a little bit of it is like, this is nice, this feels good. But if you get too crazy, especially if you get too crazy with edibles, it'll take you away on this wild journey of paranoia and it'll lock you up. Like, some people just need to take a couple weeks off. Just relax.
That's always a good idea.
It is a good idea, right?
Yeah. I think people underestimate cannabis. I think it can be, like you say, it can really sort of knock you off your center, especially if it's edible. And like all these things, you got to learn how to use it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically, that's what you got to do. You have to learn how to use it. But you know that's my rap. So.
Yeah, it is your rap, but it's a great rap. It really is. It's so important. I think it's so important for people to realize that you gotta let, like, regular you, like natural, sober you. It's important to be in touch with that. Like, you don't want to always be high or always be caffeinated or always be anything.
Well, exactly. I mean, people get to these places and they fail to do a reality check on themselves. I mean, I get emails from people all the time that said, well, life's been pretty weird lately. I took mushrooms 5 times last week and, and it's like, dude, how about you lay off for a while and give yourself a chance? Because, they tell these stories and it's like the idea of, okay, let's find your center, go back to baseline, lay off the sauce, whatever it is you're taking, and just chill out and try and rediscover your center. It seems like common sense advice, but people don't do it.
It does seem like common sense advice, but common sense is not common. I think
That's
everybody
true.
knows that.
Well, yes, all you have to do is look around to realize that.
What is it about people, though, that once they indulge in any sort of, it doesn't even have to be a substance. It could be an activity, like gambling, for instance. Like, once it gets in your bones, it just seems like you're so compelled to just continue that behavior, and the idea of stopping is almost more painful than the idea of wrecking your life.
This is addiction.
Yeah.
This is basically, these things are reinforcing. They activate those pleasure circuits, in the brain, mediated mainly through dopamine, and all of these, the so-called drugs of abuse, which I think is a terrible word, but, the reinforcing drugs, the pleasure drugs, work directly or indirectly through the dopamine circuits, and the dopamine is like your button for pleasure, in the same way that serotonin is kind of on the opposite side. It's your button for more like euphoria, feeling good, but not the it doesn't have the punch, I guess, which is why people can get addicted to gambling, they can get addicted to sex, they can get addicted to television, all of these things. It doesn't have to be substances, because they all hit those same circuits, except the psychedelics, which don't work on that reward circuitry. They work on a different set of circuits.
But yet, even with those, your behavior patterns can become addictive. And then you can start just doing psychedelics too much. And it's not even the psychedelics that are doing it. It's just this compulsive need to constantly change your state of mind.
Yeah, that's quite true. And if people, the way to use psychedelics is there are many ways to use it, but basically use it thoughtfully. You can... all the question about recreational use versus spiritual use versus therapeutic use. These are all ways to approach it. And I am not a person who says you must do it this way, you must do it that way. What I do say is do it from an informed place and approach it thoughtfully, because, in other words, don't, plan for it. Respect the medicine in a certain way, use it in a circumstance where you can learn from the medicine rather than have the medicine be sort of a, overlay over whatever else you're doing. This is something that demands attention, and I think that's the best way to use psychedelics. And for whatever spin you put on it, is it spiritual, is it therapeutic, is it recreational, is it shamanic? These are all labels. The important thing is that, you approach the medicine itself. The medicine is the teacher, right? Not the sitter, not the shaman, not the psychotherapist. If they're doing their job correctly, in my opinion, their job is to let you have your encounter with the medicine. And the medicine is what you learn from. They're there to facilitate that. They can intervene if you get anxious or if things go on, make sure, nobody comes to the door, that kind of thing. But basically, it's to facilitate a learning opportunity where you and your teacher, which is the medicine, be it ayahuasca or mushrooms or whatever, can have this intense one-on-one interaction,
I feel like with psychedelics as well as with all these other things that we're talking about, any kind of drug, even coffee, alcohol, whatever, and behavior patterns, all these different things. I think one of the things that happens with human beings is you get so far along in your life and these behavior patterns become so like tight grooves that are carved into your psyche. And then as you become an adult, then you start to learn like, oh, there's got to be a better way to handle this. Let me figure out how to do this. And it's almost like getting a car when you're really young. And not learning how to drive until you're like in your 20s.
Right.
And so you're just driving this thing, it's smashing into trees and grinding the gears. And then somewhere along the line, you're like, oh my God, I'm fucking myself up. I have to figure out a way to do this correctly. And there's two different approaches. There's one, the abstinence approach, which is very popular. People say, well, I'm straight edge now. I don't do anything and that's it. And I just do wheatgrass and I run hills and stuff. I'm like, okay, you could do that too.
Right, you can do it.
You definitely can do that too. But I just don't think that there's anything wrong with any of these things. I think there's something wrong with the way we use them. And I think it's one of the inherent problems with things being illegal, is that we can't discuss this. We don't have people like you or centers where people can go, where people can become educated on the proper way to use these drugs, medicines, whatever you want to call them, these compounds, and get something out of them that can really be beneficial.
Right, that's exactly right. I've said this many, many times that, drug education, what they call drug education in this country, is a joke because the whole emphasis is on don't use them. That's absurd. That's like telling, an 18-year-old guy full of testosterone, don't have sex.
Right.
Come on, it's built into the genetics. They're going to go for that. What they have to do, what they can't bring themselves to acknowledge in the drug education field is it's not about telling people not to use drugs. It's about teaching people how to use drugs if they choose to, right? Like any other skill, people have to learn to drive. They have to learn to do yoga. They have to learn to do whatever they do. There's an educational process. I tell people many times, my shtick is there is no such thing as a bad drug. And that's another problem with the dialogue. The badness is projected onto the drugs. Drugs are simply compounds with a certain pharmacology. There's no moral aspect to them. The moral dimension comes in how do people use them. That's where, it's human behavior that's moral or immoral. I say, there's no such thing as a bad drug. Plenty of bad ways to use drugs, but that comes from the person, not the compound.
Yeah. And I've always admired that you figured out when we were really young. I mean, when I met you, you quit. And, we were both in our early 20s.
Yeah.
And you were like, fuck this.
Right.
I'm not going down that road. And you didn't need anything. You didn't need Alcoholics Anonymous. You're like, no, I'm not doing it.
I did some therapy. That helped. I just needed to realize that once I realized that, and I had gone to Al-Anon because of my dad, adult child of alcoholic meetings, which helped me a phenomenal amount, just to realize that that it's a disease and that, you're powerless to it. And that for me, I was able to apply what I learned in there, because I went to a couple AA meetings, and in Boston, it was like, guys would get up and they were like, and then I blew a guy for a sandwich and I passed out the fucking dump. And they, it's like, I couldn't relate. I mean, my thing was like, I fucked a fat chick. That was my bottom. I had a three-way with a couple girls who were, as fat as John Panette. And so I could, but I read the literature of the 12 steps, and it helped me because it made me realize that when I wanted to drink, something was going on.
Yeah.
And to this day, I just have that reaction. I know that I still want to drink all the time, but when I really want to drink, I stop and I go, all right, what's stressing you out? What do you need to deal with? And then I just kind of focus on it.
Yeah. Yeah, there was, when I was a kid, my dad was an architect, and so I worked on a lot of construction sites, and I met a lot of junkies. A lot of people on construction sites are either alcoholics or drug addicts. And there was this one guy that I really liked. He was a funny guy, man. Really funny guy, and he was in the band. His name was Robbie. Funny fucking dude. Loved hanging around with him, but just couldn't stay off the coke.
Wow.
Couldn't stay off the coke. And you could totally tell. He'd be honest about it too. Say how he went off the rails, and we would be working together. He was a carpenter, and I was like a laborer, so I was like an apprentice. And so he'd be talking to me while he's explaining to me how to do things and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, I'm just fucking tired of this. I'm getting my shit together. The band's getting back together again. We're writing songs and this and that. And then he'd come in Monday looking like shit. Just looking like shit, real grumpy, didn't want to talk, had a headache.
Yeah.
And, and he'd admit it, went off the rails.
Right. The saddest thing is that when you first start doing drugs, and I don't know about you, but I had a phenomenal time doing cocaine. Mushrooms and all the stuff I did as a teenager was like, I never got hooked on it. And if you do it, maybe I did coke 50 times without ever getting hooked, it's a blast. That's the best kept secret. But then once you get hooked, you're not even having fun anymore. You're just maintaining. You're just feeding it so you don't crash. With heroin, you're just trying to avoid withdrawals. You're not even feeling that great anymore.
I think with Robbie too, part of the problem was he was very disappointed in himself.
Yeah.
It was booze too. He would just go off the rails and try to keep it together. It's like there's a lot of people out there that they have a dream, and then the pressure of trying to reach that dream, like his dream is to be in a successful band, right? And the pressure of trying to reach that dream and see it to fruition, it seems unreachable.
Yeah.
It seems too far off. And here you are, you're in your 30s, and you're working in a construction job, and you fucking work all day in Boston in the winter. You're tired as shit when you get home. You don't want to go to band practice.
Yeah.
You get home at 6:30, you have dinner, and now it's 7:30. You got to get up.
Right.
You got to get up in a few hours.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? When are you going to bed? You got to get up at 6. Like,
Then you go to
fuck.
band practice and the drummer doesn't show up, so
Right.
you can't practice. Or
He's 45 minutes late, his car breaks down, and you're fucking pissed, and your girlfriend's screaming at you.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah. Then try to have a relationship on top of that. Tell
Yeah.
that girl you can't go out on Saturday night ever because you're doing gigs.
And then the gigs suck, and you're not making any money, and they're like, you should get a job. The gigs suck. You should get a job.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And then you're in a band, so girls are throwing themselves at you. Have an affair. She's got some coke.
Now it's good. Now the story turned around.
I turned it around.
Now it's exciting again.
Bon to
Down, down, down.
Sometimes when I work at casino, there'll always be that band in the lounge that's playing like Born to Be Wild and all those songs, and like you'll see people that are like 57 dancing, and you see them and they're dancing, and it's like they're just reliving the only joy they had in their life, which was like when they were young, dancing to rock. And this band is fucking, they're gods to them.
Yeah, the time when you're young, when you're having fun, is so fleeting.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden responsibilities stack up. And all of a sudden, you have to pay bills. You have obligations. You have so much that you have to think about.
Yeah.
For so many people, there's this period of their life where they look back to whimsically. Like, that was the time when I was free.
Yeah.
I was young and my dick got hard all the time.
I could go 2 or 3 times.
3 times in a night. Like,
Shit.
wild man. I can't believe it.
And you think anything is possible. I
Yeah.
mean, that's really,
Anything can happen.
that's the loss of innocence, is when you realize at a certain point that you do have to pick a path and stay on it.
Oh, yeah. You better.
Because you got to pay the bills with it. And, and then what's so sad is you see people that work so fucking hard for not a lot of money. And, bills just add up. And then they save just enough when they get their vacation twice a year. They'll go to like a cruise and they'll just drink nonstop for a week. And at the end of it, they're just hungover. They blew the excess money they had. And that was it? That's what you worked all year for?
I had a friend of mine who worked in a restaurant, and one of the guys who worked with saved up his money for 8 years. Went to Vegas and blew it in one day.
God.
It was the most heartbreaking story. This poor guy, I think he was a dishwasher, and he worked there for 8 years.
Yeah.
Like, set aside 50 here, 25 there. Set aside for 8 fucking years.
Yeah.
And I think it was some good amount of money, like $30,000.
Shit.
Went there with a plan. This is it, baby. I'm good at blackjack. Or whatever the fuck he played.
He read a book.
A lot of guys read books.
Rejection. Do you remember the last time you felt rejected? Was it a guy that never returned a phone call? Or a father that never came around? Was it a boss who overlooked you for a promotion? Or maybe it was someone in your life who never thought you were good enough, no matter what you did to try to impress them. We all know rejection hurts. It stings. It makes us feel like we're not good enough. It causes us to question ourselves and doubt our future. I submit to you that rejection isn't something we should be afraid of. And it sure isn't something that should make us get discouraged, depressed, or work unhealthy amounts of hours just to prove to the world that we are somebody worth loving and paying attention to. Rather, rejection is our friend and not our enemy. I'm going to share 2 ways that we can see rejection in order to leverage those moments of pain to be the greatest catalyst to our success and proof of our value and uniqueness. The first way that we can view rejection is by seeing it as projection, a psychological projection. A psychological projection is when someone subconsciously employs undesirable feelings or emotions onto someone else rather than admitting to or dealing with their own unwanted feelings. When we can see how the rejections we face may have more to do with another person's inward turmoil and not our own value, our lives will change. Rather than shrink back, get discouraged, or play it safe, we'll move forward in life with confidence and high esteem. One of my most painful moments of rejection happened when I was in the 3rd grade. I wanted to be popular, to be liked, to be loved, and to be respected. And thankfully I was. I was in an advanced learning class, which meant that I was one of 2 black students in an all-white class. And this wasn't a bad thing. I was known as the cool big black kid. They called me Goon. I was one of the smartest kids in the class. People cheated off my tests. They laughed at my jokes. Life was great. Until one day, as I was returning back to class from a bathroom break, I noticed a group of black students circled together, laughing hysterically. Me being the confident, charismatic, outgoing guy that I was, I decided I was gonna go over to them and get in on the jokes. So I walked over to these students and I said, "Hey y'all, what's so funny?" No one answered. I spoke up. "Man, what y'all over there laughing about?" And just as I was finishing my sentence, one of the guys in the group turned towards me and said, "Yours was funny, white boy." The crowd erupted in laughter, and I, feeling embarrassed, ashamed, and rejected, returned to my class to soon learn that I was known in our school as the black kid that talks and acts white. I allowed that moment of rejection to diminish my confidence and my self-esteem. Rather than celebrate my own uniqueness, I began a long journey of changing who I was to fit in with this black community. I changed the way that I dressed, the way that I talked, the music I listened to. I even changed the way that I laughed. I started skipping school, selling drugs, and making poor decisions, all because I wanted to gain their approval and their acceptance. And you know what? It worked. They accepted me. They embraced me. I got street cred. But deep down inside, I knew it wasn't me who they accepted. It was who I was pretending to be. And the more they adored this false version of me, the more rejected the real me felt the entire time. You see, I didn't understand that sometimes rejection is projection, a projection of someone's own fears and insecurities onto another person. Those students who made fun of me were deeply insecure. They were unsure of themselves. They were afraid to do anything outside of what their peers thought was acceptable. And because they didn't know how to be their unique selves, they projected their fears and insecurities onto me in the form of mockery and jokes. Because sometimes talking bad about others makes people feel better about themselves. If I would have been able to see their rejection as projection, I would have never taken their jokes personally. I wouldn't have wasted years of my life trying to earn their approval and their acceptance. I would have stayed true to who I was, and I probably would have felt more sorry for them than I was for myself. And I believe that properly handling rejection is a crucial component to ending the rising anxiety, depression, and suicide rates in our nation and world. In fact, one study from the Oxford Handbook of Social Exclusion stated that rejection is both a cause and a consequence of depression. Think about it. Have you ever felt down after you got rejected? Maybe it was a group of coworkers who invited everyone out for drinks after work, except for you. Or what about people who won't invest their money into your vision and dream? Those are situations that cause people to dislike themselves, give up, gain a ton of weight from emotional eating, and binge watch Netflix. But I've learned that we don't have to allow rejection to make us do that crazy stuff. We can leverage our moments of rejections to produce confidence and success. I did. Once I discovered that the rejection I faced in the 3rd grade was actually a projection of those students' own issues, I was able to see the beauty in my own difference. Honestly, they had something right about me. I was the black kid that talked and acted white, and I still am. Being the black kid that talks and acts white has enabled me to be versatile as a speaker and work with people from all different walks of life. I can speak to gang members in the street, and I can speak to executives in the boardroom. I can help addicts live free from addiction, and I can coach elite athletes to discover their purpose beyond sports. The very thing that made them reject me has become a crucial component to my success and has made me effective at helping others. And it's all because I learned to see rejection as projection and figured out how to use it for my good. The second way that we can see rejection is by viewing it as protection. Protection from something or someone that isn't meant to be in our lives anymore. I learned this lesson after life rejected my dreams of playing in the NFL. I went to Central Michigan University on a full-ride scholarship to play Division I football. Sports was the way that I was gonna become rich and famous so that I could buy my parents a house and get all of my family out of poverty. I had so many coaches and players who told me that because of my height, my speed, and my athleticism, that there was no doubt that I would one day play in the NFL. Unfortunately, I ruptured a disc in my back my freshman year, and this injury ended my college career. Life had rejected all that hard work I put in. Rather than view my sports injury as protection from a career path that wasn't the best for me, I took it personal. I felt like life hated me and spit in my face. I felt like the universe despised me and that my value was pretty much nothing without the sport that I loved or the recognition that I got from being an athlete. Rather than let sports go, I did something terrible in an attempt to keep my athlete dreams alive. I signed a liability waiver and rehabilitated my body to once again play Division I football. I put my body through 2 years of drug addiction, pain, and sleepless nights because I couldn't face life on life's terms. No matter how many painkillers I took or how many epidural shots I got in my back, I couldn't avoid the reality that my career was finished. Nothing I did to avoid that rejection was working. I was so afraid to face rejection because I felt like it meant that I had no value and no future. I figured that since life completely rejected me and all the hard work that I put in to become a professional athlete, that I didn't just fail, but rather that I was a failure. This belief that I was a failure drove me into one of the darkest depressions of my life. I became suicidal because I thought it would be better to end my life than to deal with another painful moment of rejection. And so I would swallow whole bottles of pills in hopes that I wouldn't wake up the next day. I would get drunk and take a bunch of drugs and get in the car and drive, hoping that a car accident would end it all. It got so bad that I tried to starve myself, and I went from 275 pounds to 219 pounds in 4 weeks. It's all because I didn't understand how to handle rejection. All these attempts at suicide landed me in the psychiatric unit in Detroit, Michigan. And it was there that I had a life-changing experience that gave me hope and purpose and helped me to believe that maybe the rejection I was experiencing was protection from a future that wasn't the best for me. And that maybe there was a career and a life out there for me that was far better than what I had envisioned. So I spent the next few years researching everything I could find on purpose and meaning. I read books, I took online courses, I interviewed people, I prayed, I meditated, I even watched a bunch of TEDx talks. I started to develop new skills and explore new interests. You know what? Over time, I built a life that I loved and even enjoyed more than my life as an athlete. And I would have never been able to do that if it wasn't for life completely rejecting, or should I say, protecting me from becoming a professional athlete. And I believe that the world needs to have the same perspective shift that I had when I was in the psychiatric unit. Rather than internalize rejection to mean that we're less valuable or that our future is unsure, we should view it as protection from something or someone that isn't meant to be in our lives anymore. Imagine what would happen if we stopped viewing rejection as a negative, humiliating force, and we started viewing rejection as a necessary development tool and a catalyst for massive success. When I look at people who I admire that have been highly successful in life, I can't help but to notice how they've overcome rejections they face. It causes me to wonder if they would have ever become who they were if it wasn't for how they leveraged their moments of rejection. I mean, I wonder if Martin Luther King Jr. would have ever become a great leader if it wasn't for the rejection he experienced from his message and his mission. I wonder if Michael Jordan would have ever developed the drive to become one of the greatest basketball players of all time if it wasn't for being rejected by his coach in high school. I wonder if Apple would be one of the largest tech companies in the world if it wasn't for Steve Jobs being rejected by his own company. More importantly though, I wonder what your life would look like if you went back to your moments of rejection And rather than cry, get angry, or bitter, you analyze those moments and reframe them as protection or projection. I wonder if buried beneath your pain and unfortunate circumstances is treasure that you could cash in. I wonder if you find keys that will unlock new paths in life that are far beyond what you can think or imagine. I wonder if the next level of your success is locked beneath your most painful moment of rejection. I started by asking you, when was the last time you felt rejected? Was it a boss, an ex-spouse, a parent, a friend, or just bad luck? And I'll end by asking you, what are you going to do with it? Thank you. You've been awesome.
How much of what people experience when it comes to the word depression, how much of it is their life going bad, tragedy, poor health, bad job choices? How much of it is some sort of a weird genetic thing? How much, I mean, there's so many variables as to what causes depression, but such a giant number of people suffer from depression.
Well, I think it only, if I'm being honest, I think it's going to get worse. You know, like you look at the way we live and the closer and closer, you've spoken about that. We're just talking about fucking New York. We're not meant to be that confined. We're not meant to sit out, like we're withheld from the fucking sun right now.
Yeah.
So many of these things communicate with our bodies. I'm working with a genetic specialist, Ryan Frissinger. He was on Chris Ryan's show. Sunlight influences 500 on-off switches on our epigenetic level. For the good, unless you fucking overdo it, right? 500 plus on-off switches in our DNA are affected by sunlight positively, right? I mean, that's why they look at vitamin D3. Take that for example. They're calling that a hormone now, not a fucking vitamin.
Really?
Because it's a messenger. That's how much it influences in the body. Incredibly important. So when you think about all these things like being barefoot, being connected to the earth, going in the fucking ocean, science will catch up in certain ways. But we get fixated on the thing. We get fixated on our phones, on whatever TV is going on. We're closed off from other people. We think, communicating through Facebook is the same as being fucking face-to-face. It's not. And the more we head that direction and we're putting, as you put it, putting fucking shit food in our body for mouth pleasure, that influences the brain, right? 80 to 90% of all of our neurotransmitters are made by the bacteria in our gut. So you think the shit meal is just going to put on 5 pounds. It's not. It might put on 5 pounds, but it's going to fuck your brain up for a while. You make you a little bit more emotional. Fuck with your sharpness, your memory recall. All that's impacted. Sleep's impacted. I wish Michael Walker talked a bit more about that. I just don't think it's in his wheelhouse.
I don't think it is. He's just a guy who studies sleep and the effects on it. But fuck, was that illuminating, eye-opening. That podcast was so important to me.
It was fucking fantastic. I think his book is really good, but as far as like dialing in sleep, it's more of this is what happens when you don't sleep. Mm-hmm. Sleep. The book Sleep by Nick Littlehales is probably my favorite because that gives you it's a fucking how-to guide on how to maximize sleep.
And when you were younger, lack of sleep didn't affect you the way it affects you now, right?
Correct. Yeah. Everything he talks about, like with that shift that you have that happens in adolescence where you become a night owl, no doubt. And I probably still could stay out a little bit later until having a kid, and then that's your immediate reset.
Yeah.
Bitch, you're getting up when the sun comes up.
Yeah. Be prepared, sir. Get ready. Yeah, it's there's so many different factors that lead to a healthy body, but how much of a healthy body leads to a happy mind? That's where it gets. Like, you can't blame some of these people that are suffering from, like, a disease. Some of these people that have, like, something wrong with the way their brain is producing these happy hormones.
Yeah, I don't think you can say it's just this one thing. Like, well, if you just ate clean or if you just went keto or you just ate paleo, then you wouldn't have depression. I don't think that's it at all. But certainly that's a factor.
It certainly could be a factor.
Being in nature is a factor. Mm-hmm. And unpacking trauma. Gabor Mate says at the heart of all fucking addiction is some form of trauma.
Yeah, I'm sure. Completely makes sense. Yeah, his theories on that are fascinating. I never thought about it that way. at some form of trauma during your developmental stage has led you to like seek out this weird, crazy feeling and experience. When you have you known many people that have had like serious addictions, like meth or?
Oh yeah. Without naming names, people very close to me, family members, been addicted to meth. Lost a cousin to pills. I've been going to AA, not for me, for a family member since I was 3 years old. So I've seen that, you know.
What is that trauma based? Is like everything, because don't pills just kind of get everybody?
Yeah, pills can get everybody. There's no doubt about that.
Unless you wean yourself off, you have like real issues,
there was
right?
some trauma there in all of those circumstances. And I'm not saying, you know, pills can fucking grab you. There's no doubt. But certainly with the meth and the alcohol, which was other things, you know, no doubt there was trauma there.
Yeah, I've known of quite a few people that got fucked up on pills after operations or injuries or stuff like that. But I know quite a few of them that kicked it. You know, that just realized it was happening. When whoa, down, like Schaub's talked about it quite a bit. When he fought Crow Cop, his nose was destroyed, so they had to rebuild his nose, and he started taking pain pills. And he said after a while, he's just taking them every day just because he just wanted to take them. And then his friends came over and cleaned out his medicine cabinet. I'm like, cut the shit, dude. It's 4 months later. You're still taking these things all day long. You can't do that anymore. And he's like, whoa. He said he almost didn't even realize he was doing it. It just kind of caught a hold of him.
Yeah, shit becomes habit, especially when it's that euphoric. Right?
Now,
Must be amazing.
I decided to become a referee for 2 other reasons. 1, to stay in good shape. 2, because I wanted to learn how not to take things personally. I can see some people nodding. You're probably thinking being a referee is the perfect environment to learn how not to take things personally, isn't it? Because the spectators hardly ever shout encouraging or positive things. No. What do they shout? Come on.
Loser, are you blind?
Yeah, good. As a referee, I'm the scapegoat. Apparently, I'm always wrong. It's always my fault. And I wanted to learn how not to take all this personally. Because I really struggle with this. For example, when I drive slowly because I'm trying to find a specific location and somebody is just driving behind me, I feel hunted, especially when they start honking and flashing their headlights. I take it personally. I know I shouldn't, but it just happens. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. Or when somebody cancels an appointment last minute, I get the feeling that I'm not important enough. Again, I take it personally. Even professionally. I'm a public speaker, like tonight. This is what I do. I give keynote speeches, and I really like it, as long as I can draw my audience into my story. Because the very moment I see somebody is not paying attention, for example, when somebody is looking at his smartphone, it just happens. I take it personally. Relax, you are safe tonight, don't worry. Feel free to take your smartphones and you can even start talking to your neighbor. I will not take it personally. Why not? Because now, here and now, I'm very conscious that this can happen. And more importantly, I have a strategy to deal with it. So tonight, I would like to share this strategy with you. Are you interested? Cool. Because I guess I'm not the only person in this room who sometimes takes things personally, right? Imagine you invite a friend to go to the movies and she replies, "Oh, sorry, I have to work." But you see a picture on social media of her having dinner with some friends that very night. Or imagine you really have worked very hard on a project. You're really proud of the end result, but the only thing you get is criticism. So you come home and you would like to wind down and share this terrible experience, but while you're telling your story, the other one walks away to switch on the TV. Now, Who would take one of these situations personally? Show me hands. Come on. Lots of you. Why? Why do we take things personally? Somebody says or does something and bam, we feel hurt, neglected, offended, betrayed by the other one. That's what we believe though. It's the other person's fault. He's responsible for what we feel. He's the one to blame. Now, hang on. Who says that? Which part of us is speaking? It's our ego. Our ego thinks that others should take us into consideration. Our ego doesn't want to be criticized. Hell no. Our ego wants to be acknowledged. I'm right. Is this what you want? Do you want to be right? That's exhausting. When my ego takes over, I'm fighting all day. I'm in a constant struggle with the rest of the world. And it drains my energy. Wouldn't it be so much easier to not take things personally? Because then no one has power over you. You're free. You experience much more harmony and connection between you and other people. Of course, because your energy can go towards nice things instead of endlessly battling against the things that drive you crazy. So the question is, do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? I know what some of you are thinking. I will make sure I will be happy by being right. Well, how do you do it? How to become happy by not taking things personally? You are standing at the kickoff of the match of your life, the match by which you will learn how to stop taking things personally. So as a referee, I brought my coin for the toss. And every coin has two sides, heads or tails, and they stand for two strategies. Two strategies to no longer taking things personally. Sir, good evening. You're the captain of this huge team. You can choose heads or tails.
Heads.
Okay? You're lucky, it's heads. Are you ready for the first strategy? Okay, here comes. First strategy. It's not about me. What do you mean it's not about me? This sounds weird, doesn't it? Because when I take things personally, I'm convinced it is about me. When I see someone is looking at his phone, I feel offended. I think, hey, I've put so much effort and time in this presentation. I want respect. I think me, myself, and I. Sounds familiar, no? Yeah. But in fact, it isn't about me. What if I try to look at it from the other person's perspective, asking myself, why? Why is he or she looking at his or her smartphone? Maybe he has just received an important message, one he has been waiting for. Or the topic of my presentation is not really his cup of tea. Could be. Or on the contrary, he finds it very interesting and he wants to take notes on his smartphone. Very smart to do that, by the way. I simply need to shift my focus from me to we, and I won't take it personally. If I try to see the intention of the other one, I make space for understanding instead of irritation. Does this ring a bell with you? When you put your son to bed, but he doesn't want to, he throws himself on the floor, kicking and screaming, "I hate you!" Do you take that personally? No, you don't, because you know this is not about me. It's about what he wants, what he needs. He's angry because he just wants to stay up a bit longer. That's all. So the first strategy to not take it personally is it's not about me. Look at the other person's intention. When a driver is tailgating and flashing his lights, he probably does it because he's in a hurry. It's not about me. You see? It's as simple as that. In theory. Because in real life, it turns out to be a hell of a job. Do you have any idea, ladies and gentlemen, how many thoughts our brain produces a day? 50,000. And guess how many of them are positive? Only 10,000. So this means that 80% of what we think are negative thoughts. That's a lot, isn't it? When you see two colleagues talking to each other and just then they look at you and they start laughing, do you think, oh, they must have noticed my new shoes and they want them too? Now, what do you think? Darn, they're laughing at me, they're gossiping about me. So it takes a lot of effort to correct yourself and say, hang on, I have no clue. They might be laughing about something that has nothing to do with me. So, seeing the positive intention of the other one requires a lot of discipline and training. And that's why I became a referee. To train my brain not to take things personally. I train my brain an hour and a half a week, the entire period of a match. I say this for the football dummies. And now before the match, I'm warming up. Not only physically, but also mentally. I give myself some pep talk in the dressing room. Frederick, watch out. Lots of things will trigger you during the game. You're going to make decisions who some will not agree with. And they will shout unpleasant things at you. So I tell myself, Frederick, don't take it personally. It's not about me. They just want to be right. They simply want their team to win. You see, when I focus on the intention of the other person, there is no need to take it personally. When I apply this strategy very consciously, I admit it, I feel much more at ease on the field. When the coach, the players, or the spectators do not agree with my decisions, I'm less easily thrown off balance. This strategy, ladies and gentlemen, works. But not always, unfortunately, because some words they shout at me, like here, do really hit a raw nerve. You're a loser. Choose another hobby. You know what? Go fishing. Ouch. Maybe they are right. Perhaps I took the wrong decision. Maybe I am a loser. Honestly, that's how I feel sometimes. Do you see this? Every coin has a flip side. When this first strategy, it's not about me, doesn't work, it simply means it is about me. I have to look in the mirror and question myself. As a beginning referee, I still feel insecure, especially me. I never played soccer. It is about me because it has something to do with my insecurity. I doubt about myself, or a part of myself that I haven't come to terms with. Do you see my point, ladies and gentlemen? Even if I know that a driver is only tailgating because he's in a hurry, I still take it personally when he honks or he's flashing his headlights. So I must question myself. Probably I was driving too slowly. I'm aware of it. I just don't like that clumsy part of myself. Why else would I take it personally, right? When I say, ladies and gentlemen, you are an orange, who would take this personally? No one, right? Why not? Because nothing in you believes that you are in fact an orange. An orange? Unless, of course, that you are ginger and you feel bad because of that, which is luckily not the case with me. But when someone says, Frederick, you are so selfish. Ouch, I do take it personally. And it only happens because I know there is some truth in it. If I'm honest, I'm aware of the fact that I do not always take into account other people's needs. When you are being criticized and it hurts, chances are big that this is rooted in your childhood. Maybe as a child, you were never good enough. When you came home with a 9 out of 10, they said, hey, and why not a 10? You see, you can only take things personally if it somehow touches a raw nerve. And that's the moment to give yourself some empathy. Ooh, this hurts, darn. I'm longing so hard for recognition, and I feel sad if I don't get it. You see? And you can also, why not, speak up. Just tell the other one what's going on inside you. Hey, I'm in the middle of my story here, and you just walk away to switch on the TV. It feels as if you don't care about my story. It's not nice. By opening up, by being vulnerable, by telling what you feel without blaming the other one, you increase the chance that the other one will understand you and take your needs into account. You see what I mean? To conclude, how not to take things personally. 1, it is not about me. Look at the other person's intention. If that doesn't work, 2, it is about me. Give yourself empathy and speak up. Ladies and gentlemen, please, pretty please, do not take it personally. But I really do hope that you will take a couple of things personally within the next hours and days. Only if you do, you can test out these 2 strategies. Imagine, just imagine, if we could all put this in practice, wouldn't that enhance our relationships enormously? Together we could create a better world. Wouldn't that be great? And as a referee, I even earn some money by it. Who would also like 20 euros to learn how not to take things personally? Show me hands. Show me hands. Oh, so many. Who still wants the 20 euros now? Who still wants the 20 euros now? Who still wants the 20 euros now? And who still wants them now? Why do you still want these 20 euros?
Because it's still 20 euro.
People may attack you, criticize you, or ignore you. They can crumple you up with their words, spit you out, or even walk all over you. But remember, whatever they do or say, you will always keep your value. Thank you. Thank you.
The Valentines I never knew, the Friday night charades of youth were spent on one more beautiful. At 17 I learned the truth. And those of us with ravaged faces, lacking in the social graces, desperately remained at home, inventing lovers on the phone who called to say, come dance with me, and murmured vague obscenities. It isn't all it seems, it's 17. A brown-eyed girl in hand-me-downs, whose name I never could pronounce, said, pity please the ones who serve, they only get what they deserve. And the rich relation hometown queen marries into what she needs, with a guarantee of company and haven for the elderly. Remember those who win the game, lose the love they sought to gain. at you in dull surprise when payment due exceeds accounts received. It's 17. Those of us who knew the pain of Valentines that never came, and those whose names were never called when choosing sides for basketball. It was long ago and far away. The world was younger than today, and dreams were all they gave for free to ugly duckling girls like me. We all play the game, and when we dare to cheat ourselves at solitaire, inventing lovers on the phone, repenting of the lives unknown. They call and say, come dance with me, murmur vague obscenities. Ugly girls like me at 17.
Not being accepted, being a nobody. Yeah.
Wow. So what's the biggest fear for you right now? You don't have any big fears right now?
Yeah, but that's the part of discipline. Discipline is separating the two. You know, you have to do what you hate to do, but do it like you absolutely love it with vigor and enthusiasm. The warrior mentality and the duration of it. That's probably the main part, the length of how long you have to go through that psychological warfare. And it takes tolls on people.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. It's just really rigid. If you become the best, you have to almost become fanatical. You know, this is my life, this is all I live for, this is my air, this is everything.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess most athletes feel that way.
Yeah.
It just becomes your life, so you can do this in your sleep because it's so regimented.
Right. When do you feel...
Almost like we're zombies.
I know.
Like robots.
If your 20-year-old or 25-year-old self was sitting right here where I'm at, and you could sit down and have a conversation with him, what would you want to say to him?
You know, that he should prepare on developing what makes him happy in life. And strive on developing that and cultivating that, what makes you happy. And have that strong alliance within yourself on what makes you happy and never break that. Because that's all of our really trick. We get $100 million out of the business, but really, what is happening? I don't mean ha ha ha, hoo hoo hoo, ha, he's funny. What is the essence of happening? What does that mean? Everybody has a different definition. You know, some people may have dark happiness. They like to do dark stuff and that makes them happy, but it's still happy.
What makes you happy?
Simple stuff.
What does the mindset have to be like if someone wants to be the best at what they do?
It's just that dedicating and sacrificing your life to being a particular way you want to be. Like you want to conduct it. Say you want to be like Tony Robbins. You get all the information you can about Tony Robbins, and you conduct your. This is how I want to live my life. This is almost like this is your manuscript.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Your blueprint. Yeah.
Yeah. This is what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna live like Tony. I'm not gonna be Tony Robbins, but I'm gonna live it. I'm gonna conduct myself like Tony Robbins.
Yeah. Yeah. So you gotta live it, you gotta breathe it,
Yes, and you have to be that before you actually become the person.
Interesting.
You're not gonna become the person overnight. Like, you think you're prepared to be Tony Robbins right now? Right now. Tomorrow you're Tony Robbins. You didn't know. It's gonna take time, so I'm gonna become this guy. You know, I'm gonna be this guy before, because you're not ready. But when the time comes, you're gonna be ready. You're gonna be Tony Robbins. This is my life. I'm accustomed to this. Of course I got this role. Of course I got this job. Of course I got this rate. I prepared for it. You wouldn't even be surprised.
Mm-hmm. Before you became the champ the first time, were you visualizing and imagining
ever since I was 14, this is who I am. This is who I'm going to be. I'm Kentucky. This is the guy. You have to be the champ before you be the champ. You understand? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does it really? Because it sounds like you have to be him before you can be him. You can't just pop this by training and doing push-ups and knocking people out. This is I'm the champ. No, you have to be the actual champ. Your conduct, your lifestyle have to be the champ before you actually wear the belt. Maybe that's better. Yeah. You have to be the champ before you can even wear the belt. You have to be him before you can be him.
What's the best advice you ever got from a champion before you?
I don't know, most of them, the advice they gave me about life and stuff, they said you have to live your own life. Because you can't live your life like me. I can't live my life like you, you know. And we're just all different. And some of them say, take care of your money, you know. They regret about that.
Right. What do you think is your biggest superpower right now? Like your biggest strength?
I think it's me, who I am. My essence, my existence. When I'm no longer here, it doesn't no longer exist.
Mm-hmm. How do you want to be remembered now?
Just remember, it doesn't matter how.
Yeah.
You know how many thousands of years are gonna go by once I die? It no longer matter.
No one's gonna remember then, yeah, a couple dozen years, yeah. You have a moment where you get to share your final 3 truths with the world. You get to announce it on your podcast, or you get to write this down. And these would be 3 lessons. The only 3 things people would be able to remember you by are these 3 final lessons that you would share with the world, what I like to call the 3 truths. What would you say are your 3 truths?
If I had more time, I could be even better than what I am. And if I had more time, I could probably right through all the wrongs that I did. And if I had more time, I could love spending time with my kids, my grandkids.
Those are great. And what lessons would you share with the world that you would want them to have for their lesson from you?
That we all have to live our lives to the fullest and fulfill our lives.
Yeah.
Our life fulfillment. Whatever your life is, you know, this is what most people's problems are in life. They didn't fulfill their life fulfillment.
Who they're supposed to be.
Yeah, who they wanted to be.
What were they focused on?
Hey, it just never happened. They don't believe it happened to them. I guess they believe it was supposed to be ordained for them. I don't know, but
yeah.
And then there's some people that works hard and use all the secrets of life, and they still never get it. What do you say about that? How that work? And then there's people that work but don't work as hard as these guys, and they get it. It's just a luck thing. Somebody liked them. They had the right look. They had the right person that got them on. How do people look at that in life? Do they give up and they say, fuck it, I just keep working on the way that's been failing all my life until something happens?
Yeah. It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again.
Damn, who knew? All the planes we flew
good things we've been through, that I'll be standing right here talking to you about another path. I know we love to hit the road and laugh, but something told me that it wouldn't last. Had to switch up, look at things different, see the bigger picture. Those were the days, hard work forever pays. Now I see you in a better place. How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I would do, you were standing there by my side, and now you gon' be with me for the last ride. It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way, from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again. First you both go out your way and the vibe is feeling strong. It was small, turn to a friendship turn to a bond, and that bond will never be broken, the love will never get lost. And when brotherhood come first, then the line will never be crossed. Established it on our own when that line had to be drawn, and that line is what we reach, so remember me when I'm gone. How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I went through, you were standing there by my side, and now you gon' be with me for the last ride. Let the light guide your way, yeah. Hold every memory as you go, and every road you take will always lead you home. It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again.
Business days and a credit card. Why? Because of this thing. Brains are complex, mysterious, and uncooperative. Even with droves of scientists on the case, there's still so much we don't understand about them. One thing we do know is that these suckers hardly ever stop thinking. According to the National Science Foundation, some adults think up to 60,000 thoughts every day. But a whopping 48,000 of those are negative. That's almost one negative thought for every single second we're awake, which makes optimism the challenge of the century. And because our brains are filled with anxiety and stress, and our memory banks are overflowing with embarrassing moments and regrets, we know that we don't always get to choose what leaves a mark. But what if we could interrupt our negative thoughts with something positive? Shouldn't that over time change the way we think and feel? Now, before I jump into a sensitive topic like mental health, I need to clarify something. Just in case the tattoos didn't give it away, I am not a doctor. I'm a death metal vocalist. I'm a sneakerhead. I'm a dog person. I'm just about everything but a doctor. I don't have PhDs on my wall. I have scars on my body. I've survived everything from schoolyard bullying to childhood trauma, physical, sexual, and emotional abuse, eating disorders, hallucinations, suicide attempts, and diagnoses ranging from bipolar disorder and schizophrenia to OCD, ADHD, and the rest of the DSM alphabet. For 10 long years, I was taking medication and seeing a therapist, but I wasn't happy about it. I was negative, angry, depressed, and completely detached from reality. But nowadays, my whole life is built around positivity and kindness. I tour the world sharing stories of inspiration and hope. I'm just as surprised as you are. And when I'm on the road speaking or playing music, whether I'm at a prison or a school or a business, people always ask me, what was the turning point, that moment when everything changed? Now, if my life was a Jim Carrey movie, it would probably look something like this. I'm on my knees in the pouring rain, screaming at the night sky, why, God, why? I get struck by lightning and realize how precious life is, find true love, yada, yada, yada. But in reality, the answer is pretty anticlimactic. That moment never came. There was no overnight cure, no magic spell, no miracle drug, no light bulb, eureka moment. And I think if I would have waited around for that moment, I'd still be that angry, negative, depressed person. The ugly truth is that my recovery has been a grueling, unglamorous series of microscopic steps that felt annoying and pointless in the moment. It's kind of like sailing. If you change your course by even a single degree when you're out there on the water, you probably won't notice any difference in trajectory until you've already passed whatever it is you were looking for in the first place. But this isn't to say that everything was smooth sailing from day one. I mean, from self-help gurus to vitamins and meditation apps, I tried everything under the sun with no luck. I thought this book was supposed to change my life. That Reddit thread said that a therapist should be able to fix me in 2 months, and this is month 5. This medication helps other people, so what the heck is wrong with me? Part of the problem is that some of these things set me up for disappointment with lofty promises of quick fixes, which is really what I wanted. But the other part of the problem was me. These things required me to make the first move, and I didn't like that. Most days I could barely muster up enough initiative to do my laundry, much less make a dent in my recovery journey. I kept looking around for something external to save me, a podcast, a counselor, a webinar to take responsibility for my growth. I thought that if I was ever going to feel any better, it would be because of my therapist, my friends, my meds. I felt safer putting that job into the hands of anyone besides a screw-up like me. So out of sheer desperation, I started leaving sticky notes for myself all around my house. Little reminders to check in with myself and reframe what was going on in my mind. And because I can't stand those cheesy, just be happy quotes, I thought I would write my own, some personal takes on what growth looked and felt like to me. And as they snuck into my day, whether stuck to my bathroom mirror or hidden in one of my shoes, they were slowly beginning to make an impact. They didn't magically transform my life circumstances, but they did improve the way I processed them, which was progress. But after a few days, I started to notice an unfortunate trend. These notes were blending right into the background. I mean, we get used to stuff. Apparently, after our brain processes something enough times, it decides, this must not be worth the same response anymore. So it just stops relaying that information to us. This is a psychological phenomenon called habituation, and it's a classic example of our brain prioritizing efficiency above our own will. Have you ever wondered why you don't notice the sound of the air conditioner until it turns off? You can thank habituation for that. And to be honest, I was pretty frustrated with my brain for not cooperating with me. I mean, after all we've been through, here I am trying to do my brain a favor. And my biggest roadblock is me? I wanted to see what would happen if habituation didn't have a chance to take hold. If a brain didn't see that message coming, then hopefully it wouldn't have time to brace for impact. So on the day before Halloween back in 2017, I decided to text a message I needed to hear to 32 of my friends. I said something like, the second half of today could be great, even if the first half kind of sucked. The past and the future are totally separate things. And as the responses rolled in, I couldn't believe my eyes. One person said, whoa, I really needed this. I'm crying in the closet right now because my boyfriend dumped me. How did you know? Another person said, "Whoa, I really needed this. This morning was fine, but I'm super nervous about my job interview on Thursday. How did you know?" Even though everyone responded differently, there were two common threads. I really needed this, and how did you know? And frankly, I didn't know. Their brains did all the work, stretching the sentiment to fit their own life-specific circumstances, extracting the helpful nuggets and ditching the rest. All I did was interrupt them. That's when I realized I was onto something. So here's some context. Your brain is constantly rewiring itself. Whenever we think a thought, one synapse shoots a chemical across a cleft to another synapse, creating bridges that our thoughts use to travel throughout our brain. And our brain, over time, recognizes these patterns and rearranges itself to make this process more efficient. The phrase that helped me remember this concept as a psychology student was catchy enough to stick. Synapses that fire together, wire together. Think about your GPS. Whenever you try to get from point A to point B, it defaults to the shortest possible path. Our brain does that too. The more often we think a thought, the closer these synapses grow, the more likely we are to think it again, and so on. This means that our thoughts literally change the physical shape of our brain. And as these patterns gain momentum, they form the foundation of our personality, whether we want them to or not. But if we can interrupt these negative patterns, we have a chance to rob them of that momentum. We can pry those synapses apart and encourage others to grow
Those of us with ravaged faces, lacking in the social graces, desperately remained at home, inventing lovers on the phone, who called to say, "Come dance with me," and murmured vague obscenities. It isn't all it seems, it's 17. A brown-eyed girl in hand-me-downs, whose name I never could pronounce, said, "Pity please the ones who serve, they only get what they deserve." And the rich relation hometown queen marries into what she needs, with a guarantee of company and haven for the elderly. Remember, those who win the game lose the love they sought to gain, in debentures of quality and dubious integrity. The small town eyes will gape at you in dull surprise when payment due exceeds accounts received. It's 17.
The headphones.
You know how to start it?
You get the headphones.
Hell no. That's it.
Wow. Oh yeah. What? This nigga gonna piss me off.
If you're still here, don't forget to drop a like. Really helps the algorithm out a lot. And if you want more content like this, just leave me a comment down below and I'll get it. Anyways, thanks for watching. Our lawn care, and we're out.